Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you for joining us. My name is Claudia and I work for Push Push Go as Key Account Manager. And together with me, there is Marcin from Yieldbird.
Hello, from Yieldbird, as Claudia mentioned, I'm in charge of our product portfolio, so maybe some product-related knowledge is gonna pass by throughout the slides. Hello.
Yes. Okay, so today topic is balance and personalized experiences with effective monetization in publishing. We will have to discuss this topic, but before that, I will say a few words about our company. So we will start from Push Push Go. So Push Push Go has been founded in 2017. We are a global web and mobile provider. We work with major companies in Europe and South America. Last year, we joined to Vercom, the listed company. And in the last year, we sent 200 billion push notifications total on behalf of our customers to their audiences. Also, this year we have expanded our offer by Push Push Go Lite, which is dedicated solution for smaller businesses. You can also see some of our top publishing clients.
And a little bit about Yieldbird. Hope at least some of you do know us already. So our core mission, so why we're here is basically to help programmatic publishers grow their business. So we essentially provide you publishers with a couple of technologies that allow to optimize their stack, to allow to maximize the revenues, or basically reduce the workload on their end. And we've been on the market for quite some time, around 10 years. We manage dozens of websites from multiple countries, multiple continents. You can see a couple of our clients in here. And without further ado, let's maybe start with our core topic.
Okay, thank you, Martin, for that introduction of your company. Okay, so today's agenda, we will start from discussing a few opportunities and challenges in the digital publishing industry. We will talk also a little bit about user experience and how we can improve it. There will be some information about web push notifications and personalization that we can use in that communication channel. Also, I will show you a few examples of how our customers use web push channel in their strategies. And then Martin will say a few words about latest trends in approach to monetization, and then regarding programmatic ads and best practices. Okay, so thanks to digitalization, publishers have at least 9 different streams for monetization nowadays, which is 3 times more comparing to the printed versions of newspapers. So that's a lot, but it does not mean that it is all optimistic and easy. It also creates some new challenges. So the first challenge for publishing nowadays is popularization of news aggregators and the increasing popularity of social media used by users as the primary news source. So basically, we observe that especially among young generations, people between 18 and 24 years old, according to the study presented here, they prefer social media as their primary, the main source of news. So that's the first challenge here. Then we have selective news avoiders, and it is connected with the amount of information that we see every day that we have to consume on daily basis. So again, especially among younger generations, we do observe this rising trend of selective news avoiders, which are basically on purpose avoiding news because they feel like they need to filter what they are reading, right? So we can see that from 2017 through 2019 until this year, how this trend was basically going on. And we can see that basically, this is something we cannot really stop. So we have to deal with those selective news avoiders. Okay, and the last issue here is basically the fact that third-party cookies are fading out, and users are not very keen on sharing their first-party data with news website. According to Reuters Institute digital report from this year, from the sample of 45,000 users, only a third said that they feel safe sharing their data with news websites. So that's not a lot, and it creates another challenge for publishers. So basically, what can we do to improve this user experience for readers? How can we personalize them without use of third-party cookies and without getting first-party data from them? So we can create a community of engaged readers from which we can actually monetize. So the basics that we should have a look at are core web vitals scores. The website cannot take too long to load. The user cannot wait for ages to get the reaction from the website if they are trying to do some action like clicking on a link. And also there should be no strange content shift. So the elements of the website cannot shift in any way during or after the content is being loaded. So that's the first thing that we should get straight, web core vitals scores. Then we should have a look at the web design. So mobile comes first. Again, Reuters Institute digital news reports informs us about the fact that users below 35 years old among all markets declare that their primary news source is basically a smartphone. So we should always take that into account when we create and design our website. And of course, the design has to be inclusive, consistent, and simple. Okay, so what actually we can do to personalize our user experience? We can use active or declared type of personalization. Here on the screen, you can see the example of Spotify application. So basically, when you first log in, as a user, you can select 3 or more artists that you like, and then you can pick some podcasts that seems interesting to you. And based on that, Spotify will present the right content for you. So this is the type of active personalization. Then we have passive or inferred personalization. So this is the type of personalization used by TikTok. They are very good at it. Users of TikTok does not really realize that everything that they look at basically is picked for them on the basis of their previous likings. So TikTok looks at user activity, subject matter, video information, location and language, audio, and not interested feedback. So it is pretty seamless experience for all users, and they get the content that they like. So that's really good type of personalization. Okay, so what else you can do to personalize your reader's experience? You can try implementing web pushes. So let me just show you how our web pushes work. I will show you that on the video. Okay. Okay, so imagine that you have an account on Push Push Go and you are about to send your first campaign. You can select Rocket Push, and then you take the article from the website the article that you want to use in the push notification. You put that in the configurator, and you can see that the title and the message is immediately pulled from your website, and also the image is included. So after that, you can actually change the title and the message a little bit if it is too long. And basically, that's all you have to do to have the full content prepared. You can then check how this notification looks like on different systems and different browsers. And if everything is okay, you can hit send campaign, and basically that's how it works. So within a few seconds, you can prepare your notification, send it, and this is how it looks like on the desktop and on mobile. Okay. So under 1 minute, I think actually in 30 seconds, you can get a campaign to be sent to your audience. Okay. Moving forward, so basically the way the notification will look like. Oh, something happened. Sorry about that. So the way the notification will look like depends on the system and the browser. And basically, as you can see in Windows and Android, we have this rich push type of notification, where the notification actually contains not only the title and the message, but also big picture, so this banner, and action button. So Windows, Google Chrome in Windows, and Android Samsung browser, they do have that rich push. Also, Google Chrome on Android looks exactly like Samsung browser on Android. The good thing is that a majority of subscriber base in publishing comes from smartphone. So basically, majority of your database will see the notification in this way. Okay, so if you configure a notification with a big picture and all of those extra options, most of your subscribers will actually get to see this, rich notification. Okay. So what do you have to do to become a subscriber? So you have to accept the subscription form on the website. And we have two types of subscription forms, customized subscription form and native subscription form. So the customized subscription form is fully can be fully customized, and basically you can put the logo of your website, you can change the color, buttons, everything that you like, and of course the content. However, it requires 2 clicks to get to subscribe to the to notifications. So after this first window, this second window will be displayed. The second window, I mean the native subscription form, because this native subscription form is actually the one that confirms the subscription. And basically this native subscription form only needs 1 click for the subscription to be done, and it is up to 10 times more effective comparing with the custom subscription form. So we always recommend using this native subscription form, even though you cannot really customize it. Okay, so which data actually you can collect about your subscribers with push notifications? So all this data here on the top of the slide, this data we collect at the moment of subscription. So you don't have to do anything when your subscribers start to subscribe. We already know all of those information about them. On top of that, we can add some customized information based on readers' activity, the topics that they saw, articles, last visit date or day, or we can also check if they are new or regular reader. But it is basically created based on, on your needs, and we do not collect any cookies. So here on the bottom of the slide, you can see how those tags look in our application. You can also see that each tag has a number, and this number means how many subscribers at the moment actually have this tag assigned. Okay, so few statistics about web push subscribers. As I said, majority of them uses smartphones to subscribe. So in 2019, we saw that there was 67% of all subscribers were from smartphones. But in 2021, this number changed, and we already have almost 86% of subscribers from smartphones. So this trend is growing. There is nothing we can do to stop it, and we have to think about that when we create, when we design our website and when we design the communication for our subscribers. Okay, so here we have some metrics. Those are like average numbers from our Push Push Go database. So 60% of active subscribers in last 30 days. It means that in the last 30 days, at least 60% of the whole base received notification, like push notification, of course. And we call them active because basically we were able to reach them within that time. Next, we have the engagement rate, which is 75%. It basically means that bounce rate for push notification communication channel is 25%. So the rest, 75%, is actually a quality traffic that after clicking on the notification sticks around, stays on the website, and is actually reading articles, so they don't bounce. And here we have some trivia about our one of our top publishers. 73% of subscribers on Večerní HR were active during the last 7 days. All right, so a few more numbers about mass and targeted campaigns. Our publishers, on average, send between 5 to 10 campaigns per day, with the average CTR 3.16%. We can see that targeted and geolocated campaigns tend to have higher CTR. And it makes sense because we present the content that is supposedly more interesting to that part of audience. So of course those campaigns are more successful in terms of CTRs. And also we have CTRs in different days of the week, and we can see that the higher CTR among our publisher customers is in Sunday and Monday. Okay, so besides mass and targeted campaigns, you can also use automatic scenarios to to build more engaged community of readers. So there are a few scenarios that we would recommend for publishing. So those are, for example, welcome message, promote your mobile apps, or abandoned subscription order. And basically, as you can see, their CTRs are higher than average CTR for a massive or targeted campaign, and it is because they basically make more sense to your subscribers, because they are being sent after some interaction on the website. So they are like tightly connected to some interaction, and they make a lot of sense to your subscribers. So if they see them, they tend to click more often. Okay, so now we have few examples of push notifications among our customers. So how you can use it? You can, for example, use our Rocket Push to communicate breaking news. As I showed you on the video, you only need to put the link to the article that you want to send, and basically the whole content and the picture of the article will be pulled in to the notification. So within few seconds, you can send your campaign and be the first to inform your audience about some breaking news. You can also use targeted campaigns based on geolocation and interest to send personalized notification, like, for example, weather alerts or local news. You can base on previous interests, like TikTok, for example, and send campaigns to promote new publication or basically messages that are interesting to some particular group of your readers, and you can have a look at those CTRs. These are really, really high, and this is because they are based on previous interests. Okay, so basically, in general, your web push strategy should consist of mass and targeted campaigns plus automatic scenarios, because this is the perfect mix to go for higher engagement and build this community which is actually active and is waiting for your publications. Okay, so another use for web push is basically the abandoned cart. You can actually save some unfinished requests for paid subscriptions. So we can actually contact with those subscribers that they started the process of getting into your paid subscriptions and notify them that they actually didn't finish. Okay, and the last example of use for our communication channel is, for example, this automatic scenario plus mass and targeted campaigns to promote some sponsored articles that you might have on your website. So you can promote it and get more traffic in place where basically you need it. Okay, so that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention. If there are any questions on the chat, I will answer to them right now. And yeah, Martin will carry on with the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Claudia, for this introduction. So now let's talk a little more about the monetization part of all of this. By monetization, we mean basically advertisements, since these have sole purpose for the websites. And their purpose is monetization. Okay, so I wanted to start with a few trends, some similarity to the previous section, and I thought that the best way to do that is to share some insight regarding what we see change in the monetization landscape in the last years. So as I mentioned, we have quite long experience. We've been on the market for 10 years. And we've experienced quite a substantial change to how monetization is perceived in the publishing business. So first thing that we observed is right now publishers do know what to do. So when we started off as Yieldbird, we coped with the publishers who have very little knowledge, very little internal know-how, how to organize monetization, how to handle programmatic. Programmatic seemed to them as this new, super complicated thing, and they simply wanted to find a partner who will do everything for them. Right now, a lot of publishers have internal teams. Lots of these internal teams have very good know-how, and they don't need partners like that. They just need technologies or some specific tools that solve very specific problem. There's also additional aspect of all of this change. First one is that publishers don't really want black boxes. So given that they have know-how, when they look for a monetization partner or monetization technology, they do not accept if this technology is a black box. So claims like implement our script, you will get more revenues, don't work anymore, nobody buys them. Everybody asks, okay, but how are you going to achieve this? So publishers, due to having this additional know-how, are fully aware what the technology is doing, and they want to understand it in deep, and they want full transparency. The last thing, which is more of a ongoing thing, ad revenue and UX is not the obvious answer. So knowing multiple publishers from different industries, we know that there are some publishers for whom ad revenue is the sole purpose. They don't care that much of the UX as long as the people are not escaping from the website. So as long as they're not using users, UX is not that important. However, the vast majority of the publishers, especially the mid-sized or big ones, care about UX a lot, especially the publishers who don't rely on ad revenue solely. And we have quite a few clients like that. For them, ad revenue sometimes is secondary, and they are willing to grow their ad revenues only under the condition that the UX remains on the same level. So regarding UX and ads, generally speaking, this matter is a little bit complicated because ads don't play, generally speaking, good role in ad experience. When you try and sketch something like that, a relation chart between ad density and user experience, you will always see that the more ads you add, the lower overall user experience there is. Up to a point when you put only ads and the user experience is zero and nobody uses your website anymore. You can see that also in some complaints. This is taken from the mobile app, but basically websites don't have places when you can comment on their content. So it's I looked for this information on the app forums, and you can see people complaining that the app contains too many ads, that they paid for a phone, not for a device that shows ads only. And the best example that ads, generally speaking, are not something that users want, are the fact that there are things like ad blocks. Ultimately, to the ads, to the advertisements, there is one thing that everyone needs to understand. So when you think of one of the important metrics of user experience, which is page load speed, ads will always add some downside to that. And that's a very simple reason for that. Basically, adding advertisement means adding additional code. If you add additional code, there is some additional data to transfer and to process. And if there's additional data to transfer and process, there will always be some at least slight difference in the page load speed. Of course, without these ads, you won't have the revenue stream to pay for all the bills to keep the whole infrastructure up. However, you need to always keep in mind that ads will affect page load speed. And knowing that, you should be careful with how you set up it. And in order to not be only theoretical, I decided to share with you one of the experiments we ran at Yieldbird a couple of months ago. And this experiment was connected with Core Web Vitals. So we set up an A/B test, or rather ABCD test, where we simultaneously tested different configurations of Preview. They differed in two aspects: in number of bidders plugged in and timeouts duration. So we tested 3, 6, or 9 bidders in timeout configuration 500, 1500, and 3000 milliseconds. And then measured how Core Web Vitals changed based on these configurations. So here's the first one, largest contentful paint. So the metric that basically tells us what's the page, what's the loading duration of the heaviest element on the page. And in here we can see that when we had the configuration with 9 bidders, which from the revenue perspective might, on the initial thoughts, seem to be the most efficient one because you have the most demand plugged in, and with the longest timeout, which gives this demand the longest span to actually bid, we encountered a situation when the LCP actually grew quite significantly compared to other configurations. So this is a great example that you have to be careful when choosing the Preview configuration, because you might worsen your Core Web Vitals. So remember that all of these, in all of these scenarios, there was some Preview. There were some bidders plugged in with certain timeout set. However, the way they are set affected Core Web Vitals quite significantly. And maybe one important side note to looking at these results, the fact that we achieved such results in the case of this particular website wouldn't mean that you would get exactly the same for yours. So please just take this as an invitation to rather test than to take it for a fact that you cannot have 9 bidders with 3 seconds timeout, because it worsens your core web vitals. In your case, it might be irrelevant to that. But in this particular case, doing it like that, even if it drove additional revenue, might have meant basically lower performance in terms of core web vitals. Some other scenario where this LCP metric might be affected is if you use rich media. Rich media are those creatives that are heavier in terms of total transfer that is necessary to run them. So they also might affect LCP metric. So be careful if you use them and verify the core vitals. Maybe one thing that I'm gonna be saying all over again in here is to test, test, and test. So this is the example of a test, which can give you some conclusions. So important thing that you need to keep in mind always is to test and replicate similar test scenarios to your own websites. Now let's move on. The second one, first input delay. This metric actually shall not be affected by advertisements much. So the differences you see here, they are not very big. They differ between 96 to 108. However, generally speaking, ad stack shouldn't affect first input delay. If there are some differences here, they might be random. However, there is the third metric called cumulative layout shift. Cumulative layout shift, a quick reminder, informs about how the layout shifts after the user enters. Personally, to me, it's the thing that is irritating the most when you start to read an article and then it suddenly shifts up or down because there's some ad collapsing or whatever different reason. So personally, for me, this is something that disrupts UX the most. However, how the pre-bid can affect this. So in here we see that basically the biggest threat to this metric is the timeout. So big information in here for all of you is to try and test how different timeouts affect your CLS metric. In case of this website, we see that the CLS was affected significantly when we selected the longest timeout. The difference between 500 and 1500 milliseconds is rather irrelevant. Depending on the bidders, even got almost exactly the same results. However, the 300 milliseconds timeout was visible in the CLS metric. So important. I'm gonna repeat again to test, test, and test. To give you some different scenario when this CLS metric might be affected is when you have a lot of unfilled, because basically when you have an unfilled impression, two things can happen. First thing, you can serve a house ad. Second thing, you can show nothing. If you show nothing, you can leave the spot where the ad was originally designed, then the layout won't shift. But if you collapse the slot, the layout will shift and CLS metric will be affected. So take into account how many unfilled you have, what do you do with them, whether you try and fill them with some other ads or house campaigns, or whether you collapse them, affecting CLS metric. Okay, so now a little bit of practice in the second thing. So how our publishers do that. So what we advise to do with Private is to have a wrapper, not have it hard coded. We have our own wrapper called Quick Wrap, and our publishers who use Quick Wrap modify the bidders throughout the interface without the necessity to ask some IT to fit into the sprint to add additional bidder or test different bidders configuration to test different timeouts. They do that all from the interface, so they can run a lot of tests. And what we allow to do with our wrapper is to create a couple of versions that can differ in terms of bidders enabled, timeouts enabled, ad units configurations, all of the configurations that are available in the pre-bid, and then verify the performance on whatever metric you feel necessary. It can be based on core web vitals, it can be based on revenue only. That's up to the goals of particular publisher. As I said, there are publishers who focus purely on UX because they don't earn on ads. The ads are basically not their primary source of revenue because they might be a classifieds website. And there are publishers who rely on ads heavily, and for these, the revenue will be the core metric here. So test, test, and test, and look for tools that can basically allow you to test quicker and more easily. Okay, so we covered pre-bid, we covered core vitals. I think the very good next challenge to cover would be the viewability. So viewability is the core metric, the most important metric for measuring the quality of your ad space. Of course, the eCPM is not only affected by the viewability. There's some certain level of eCPM that cannot be increased further, and it will be relevant to the viewability, irrelevant to the viewability level. It might result from the category you're in, the geo of the traffic you have, lots of metrics. However, generally speaking, eCPMs and viewability are purely correlated, meaning that the higher the viewability is, the higher eCPMs you can get. So now the challenge for you will be to how to maximize the viewability and not irritate the user. So you basically don't want to show ads in only the best spots on your website so that all that the users see is ads. You want to do it smartly to achieve high viewability levels. However, not irritate your user too much, not bombard them with ads, basically. You don't want pictures like that with your users, I'm pretty sure. So the very, very nice thing that we observed is that basically viewability is correlated with the CPM. However, this correlation is not linear, meaning that after reaching certain level, and this level is around 70%, further increase in viewability wouldn't mean high increase in eCPM. And this results from a very simple fact. If you have a direct campaign, or whatever campaign that you set, it can be direct, it can be from open market, you basically select the minimum viewability level for this campaign. You can select over 50%, over 60%, up to over 80% in most cases. And generally speaking, when you select viewability above 70%, this campaign is basically perceived as high viewability campaign. So it actually doesn't matter whether such campaign is fired on a unit that has 90% viewability or just 70% viewability. So whether you have 70% or 90%, the difference in eCPM shouldn't be high because from the buy-side perspective, this is still a super high-quality inventory. However, on the other hand, when you compare 40% to 60%, the difference in eCPM will be significant because this is substantial difference to the perceived quality of the inventory. So now, what opportunity does it give us? Let's take a case study like this. We have two ad units on our website. One has 85% viewability, and the other one has 40%. So what we can do is try and increase the viewability of one, and we can pay for this viewability with decreasing the viewability of the second ad unit. Because what will happen then? We will see slight decrease in eCPM of ad unit A. However, at the same time, we will see high increase in eCPM on ad unit B, because we're sort of moving inside these brackets above 70% and below 70%. So what we do in our technology for boosting the viewability is we sort of shuffle the places where particular ad units appear on the page, meaning that the viewability of each ad unit on this page is averaged. So you don't have ad units who have super high viewability, but at the same time, you don't have ad units who have low viewability. So in other words, you slightly increase the CPM of the top ad units, but significantly increase viewability of the smaller ad units, smaller viewability ad units. So this is super, I like this trick very much because it has absolutely zero effect on UX. So you increase the viewability and don't see this irritated guy who's looking at too many ads or ads appearing only in the best locations that are on the page. So let's say this is a scenario for the publisher who is super UX conscious and don't want to ruin UX at any cost. So if you remember of this, let's say, quarrel UX versus revenue, you're purely UX oriented, this is strategy for you. Now let's say you're somewhere in the middle. So right now, there's this super popular hot thing, as we might say. It doesn't have an industry standard name. We call it either sticky or ad holder, which is relevant to the mobile inventory mostly. So how this thing works. So when the ad is rendered, there's always some blank spot below it. Now when the user is scrolling, the content scrolls normally. However, the ad is scrolling in a slightly different way. So when it reaches the top of the screen, it sticks for a moment. And then when the user is scrolling, you see that this blind spot below the ad is collapsing actually. So you don't interfere much with how the user reads the article. You don't impact the way he scrolls. However, you make the ad appear on the screen for slightly longer period, meaning that the viability metric might be met. So this is it has very low impact in the way of interaction with the user, however, high impact on viability. So again, this is very cool technology that might be super good fit to the publisher who is also very UX oriented, but is willing to slight sacrifices. Now the third one is something we might call hardcore out of these three, but it's also something super hot because it's based on dynamic ad grids. So the third strategy I might take for increasing the viability is to try and segment the users. And the way we do it is when the user enters the page, we have an AI who assesses the probability of scrolling. So we essentially divide the users into non-scrolling ones and scrolling ones, or as we like to call them, engaged. So you basically adapt the ad grid based on the predicted user's behavior. And what you do is when you predict that the user is going to be non-scrolling one, you sort of compress the ad units towards the top of the page, improving the probability of the ads appearing in the viewport of the user. Or if you know that this user is going to be the scrolling one, so it's going to reach the bottom of the page, you're going to basically leave the standard, not, let's say, not affected ad grid and spread the ad units evenly on the page. If you're even more revenue oriented, you can go even more hardcore and use the spare space. So let's say we predicted that the user is going to be non-scrolling one. We compress the ads towards the top of the page. However, in reality, the user scrolled down. So we have a blind spot. So if this user scrolled down, you can add additional ad slots. So of course, all of this can be done only if it's fully automated and done by the technology, not by a person, because, well, you cannot do it manually. So we designed such technology. However, we know that it's something for publishers who are most revenue oriented. So maybe slight takeaway from this section. Whatever your approach is to UX versus revenue, you will always find some technology for you on the market that will serve your needs. Of course, they will differ in the revenue potential. However, you will always find something that will allow you to increase revenue based on playing with viability. Okay, but we started with this feature that rotates the ad units and who has very limited impact on UX, or rather zero impact on UX. But is there anything else that can have impact on monetization, meaning that it will improve the monetization efficiency, but not affect UX? Maybe a moment for you to think about it. From our perspective, what we've seen, you can optimize the open market pricing strategy. So if you do it properly, you wouldn't see changes in the UX metrics. You wouldn't see the changes in page of speed, but you might see changes in revenue. So what's the outcome of optimized pricing strategy? What's the impact of it on your user experience? Well, first thing, you will see higher ads quality, or rather you will get as high quality of ads as you can. So if you do the pricing strategy properly, if you really optimize it, not only claim to have it optimized, but optimize it and do it frequently on daily basis and granularly per ad unit, you will basically push the demand side to absolute maximum. So you will make the demand side spend as much as they can on your inventory, meaning that you will get only the best quality ads that are, let's say, eligible to appearing on your website. Also, from our experience, since for over 2 years we're providing publishers with technology for handling pricing, we see that in almost all cases they get fewer ads. So what happens is the fill rates decrease. However, the eCPMs increase so much that at the end of the day, the revenue go higher. However, the fewer ads appear on the website, which, remember in the first chart, the relationship revenue versus number of ads versus UX experience, user experience, is a good thing for the UX. And the last thing, if you use pricing properly, you wouldn't have any impact on page speed. So you have tools that are already implemented inside Google Ad Manager, and basically the way at least we design it, we only ask publishers to put super short script, 600 bytes. So the impact on page load speed is super minimum. However, the impact on revenue, so if it's not enough for you and you aim for revenue only, you're just revenue-oriented person, is always visible. So we covered quite a few strategies for monetization versus UX aspects. We have still some time, so now is the best moment to questions. I've seen some activity in the questions tab.
Yes, indeed, we have few questions for you.
Okay. Okay, so let me quickly check them out.
Yes, you have a few on the everyone's chat.
Okay.
Okay, so there is one from Carl and then from Martin.
Okay. Does the number of ads affect UX and SEO? Is there a sweet spot? Okay, so regarding the SEO, the number of ads will have effect on page load speed. So it will have effect on SEO and UX. From UX perspective, all those that I mentioned. So you can have more ads and lower UX in general, or fewer ads and higher UX in general, or have the right ads and have okay UX. So regarding the sweet spot, I'm not sure what can I tell you. It's always case by case. So the only thing that I may advise is to test a couple of configurations, A/B test them, and then take a look at the metrics like core web vitals or page load speed. If it didn't help, or you want to talk more after the webinar, you get the email, so we can chat afterwards as well. Recording available. I think that's answered. Are there recommendations on the use of interstitials? Google product seems to be okay, but if you use others, could it be followed by Google restrictions in terms of page rankings? Okay, so in terms of interstitials, all I can say right now, generally speaking, they are very good for revenue. So they're always a major revenue driver. But you might see that your users might have different opinion regarding them. Some interstitials tend to be super intrusive because they tag the whole screen. So for that, what I can say, you need to be super careful and keep track of all the number of users that you have on a page and whether it's changing after the introduction of interstitials. Because from revenue perspective, you'll always gain. So if you come back to this question, whether you're revenue oriented or UX oriented, this is definitely something for revenue oriented people.
We have one more question to you. It was asked in the question section.
Okay.
Do you see that?
I see the last one.
It is from Carl as well.
Carl, how long should we test? Okay. So we advise to take into account the whole month. It doesn't mean that the test should start on the first of the month. It just should cover the whole month. And the reason for that is basically that there is certain seasonality throughout the month. It can be like you have traffic peak every Thursday because you're a sports website and there's some game going on Thursday. It might be for whatever reason, but many websites have some weekly seasonalities. However, the monthly seasonality usually is based from the fact that the new budgets are usually fired up on the first of the month. So testing for the whole month allows you to grasp these changes. So you wouldn't basically get false idea that something worked because you tested it at the end of the month. But then at the beginning of the month, when new budgets appear, the situation might actually change. So always aim for at least 30 days of test.
Okay, I can see that Henrik is typing on the everyone's chat, so probably there will be one more question. Let's wait.
Sure.
Okay, so when Henrik is typing, I can actually read the questions that were asked to me by Anna because we want to get them on the recording. Okay, so I got two questions from Anna. The first one was, if push notifications don't collect cookies, how you collect information about subscribers? Thank you, Anna, for that question. So basically, web push technology allows us to see every URL and every HTML element that has been displayed or clicked during the session, and this information can be stored in tags and assigned to your subscribers. Web push technology does not require cookies for that, so we can get those information from the user session, but no cookies are involved. Okay. And the second question was how many web push campaigns a news website can send per day in order to don't be spammy and do not irritate subscribers, if we have any data on that. So basically we observe our customers, how much do they send, and the average is between 5 to 10 campaigns daily, and we do not recommend to go over 10 campaigns a day unless you have some good content that actually is justified, so you can send more if you have a not good quality content that brings value to your readers. Also, there are a few tricks that you can use to don't be spammy even if you send like over 10 campaigns a day. You can, for example, use capping, which is a feature in our application. So you can actually set the limit of the notifications that can be delivered to the same person a day. So it can be like 3 or 5, and they cannot they cannot get more over that. So that's one way to avoid spam. Also, we have the campaign activity time, which is basically the time that within that time user can get the notification, but if he's not actively using the browser from which he had subscribed, then the notification will be not delivered to him. So limiting this, so basically those campaigns should never overlap. So if you plan to send, for example, 10 or 15 campaigns a day, all campaigns should have like around an hour for their activity. And why it is important? Because a user that was not active throughout the day, when he opened his browser from which he has subscribed, he will get like a pile of campaigns from you. So if they are all active at the same time, they are active, I don't know, for like 10 hours, some users can get at the same time like 10 campaigns from you when they open the browser. So that's very spammy, and we advise to be careful with that. So the campaign active active time. Okay. Also, when you are sending campaigns to certain tags, you are basically avoiding spam, because if you plan, let's say, 10 campaigns for the whole audience and 5 campaigns for certain tags, then you can exclude those tags from the mass campaigns, for example. So you will not send 15 campaigns to everyone, but you will segment your readers, and they will not get all of your campaigns, but only the content that was designed for them. Okay, so I hope that helps. If you have any more questions, you can drop them.
I think Henrik just finished.
Okay,
It's regarding the
go
core
ahead.
vitals test. So it's good that you actually were talking. So I managed to find this file and check this for the same website that I shared the results for. So Henrik, regarding our CPM metric, so revenue per 1,000 ad requests, the differences between particular configurations were up to 20%. So the minimum value of our CPM versus maximum value from this configuration was 20%. So apart from core vitals, from revenue perspective, you also can get quite significant lift if you select the proper configuration. And just remember that in here, we only talk about number of bidders. We didn't go deeper into whether we go for 3 bidders, which bidders to choose. And this is also quite substantial question that you should be asking. So yeah, from this simplified only 2 dimensions test, we got up to 20% change of our CPM version to version. You're welcome.
Okay, so it seems like we answered all questions. Please remember, everyone, that you can always connect us on LinkedIn or on our email addresses. They will be linked on the presentation that you will receive after the webinar. Okay, so I think if there is no more questions, we can wrap up and finish the webinar.
Yeah,
Right?
I guess so. Thank you too on behalf of Yieldbird team for participation. Also, if you have any questions, you can find me on LinkedIn or fire an email directly, marcinhaido@yieldbird.com, and waiting for any answers, any questions to provide with answers, and help with any tests that might arise to your mind, or basically providing with the tools to do those tests on your own.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and hopefully see you in the future on another webinar or on LinkedIn, maybe. Thank you again. Have a good day. Bye
Bye.
bye.